Thank you, Meg. So we're very excited that today marks the first public sharing of the Maxie's Big Move movie, and the storybook obviously, but we're really glad that you can join us for it. We'll also share some of the experiences of Armed Forces children and families as they transition from military to civilian life, and explore ways we can help children feel supported during periods of change. I'm delighted to be joined by some of the Forces Children's Scotland team. So we've got Meg, Heather and Nina here today with us. Nina is going to be talking a wee bit about how the resource was created and developed through participation work with children and families. And towards the end of the webinar, we're going to end with lovely Heather, who's our Ruby Boots project coordinator. And she's just going to share a bit about the wider support available for professionals and families for children who are transitioning to veteran status. So thank you again for being here, and let's get started. So before we explore Maxie's big move, it's important that we first take a moment to think about what transition to civilian life can actually mean for Armed Forces children and families. And I suppose the first thing to say is it can mean different things to different people. So some describe it as becoming a veteran, others as leaving active service, while many families prefer the phrase moving to civilian life. But for many young people that we have actually spoken to, the term veteran doesn't always feel comfortable with them. It can sound heavy or carry stigma, whereas civilian life often feels closer to what they are actually experiencing. And I suppose that in itself is really important because it reminds us that children and young people need space to shape their own understanding of transition and what it actually means to them as an individual. Every family's journey through transition is different. For some, it's carefully planned, such as retirement after many years of service, and the family are prepared for this upcoming transition. And for others, it can happen, though, quite suddenly, so through injury or medical discharge. And in the most difficult circumstances, families may face transition following the death of a serving parent. And each of these experiences affects children in very different ways. A planned retirement may allow time to prepare, say goodbye and think ahead to the future. A medical discharge, as we'll see in Maxie's story, can bring sudden uncertainty around health, finances and family life. And bereavement can overshadow everything with grief and loss. And that's why protecting and supporting family life is so important, and why it sits as a key principle in the Forces Children's Rights Charter. So whatever the reason for transition, children deserve stability, care and reassurance that they will not face these changes alone. There are also many practical and emotional challenges that families may experience during this time of change. So one of the biggest practical challenges is often housing. So families living in service family accommodation may need to move when a serving parent leaves the forces. Suddenly they are navigating private renting, mortgages, council tax, utility bills, often for the very first time. And for children, this experience is about far more than paperwork. It can mean leaving the bedroom where they felt safe, the patch, as we learned through Maxie's story, saying goodbye to neighbours who understood military life, and losing friendships with other children who shared similar experiences of deployment and moving. And I suppose for some young people, this may be their third, fourth, or even fifth move of their childhood, but it is a very different move into civilian society. So alongside, also it's important to note about education as well. So not always, but it tends to be if a child or young person is in a patch or in an armed forces community, they will be near a school that usually, not always, has a very supportive and trained workforce with the professionals working around the child. and sometimes moving into a different community where that support isn't as present can be quite difficult for children as they transition to a new area. So I think it's important to emphasise that, you know, military life often comes with a strong support network where families look out for one another and children grow up surrounded by others who understand the realities of this life. So essentially, you know, leaving that environment, as we'll see in the book, can feel deeply isolating, and families may move into civilian communities where few people share or understand their experiences. And young people have described this as feeling cut adrift, as though they've lost their second family. And I suppose this is why it's so important that we understand transition through a child's perspective, not just as a practical change, but as an emotional and social one too. And it can be easy to assume that when a parent leaves the armed forces, children simply adapt alongside them, that they are resilient, used to change, and able to cope. And in some cases, if we think about the early years, it's okay, they'll forget about it, they're too weak, they won't remember. And I think that is important to acknowledge, but we also, I suppose, have to acknowledge that yes, children are adaptable, and they do develop resilience, and they have many strengths. But alongside those strengths is something equally important to recognise, that, you know, it's not the life they chose, it's a life shaped by adult decisions and by the demands of service life itself. So when military life ends, it can feel like far more than a move or a change of school. And for some children, it can feel like the loss of an entire way of life. So when they do leave armed forces life, the community that once surrounded them can suddenly disappear. So the routines, the shared understanding, and the sense of belonging to something bigger can all feel lost. And what makes this especially difficult is that the loss is often invisible to those around them. So teachers, peers, and even wider family members may not fully understand why this transition feels so significant. To others, it might just look like another move, but for armed forces children, it can represent the loss of identity, stability, and connection all at once. And young people have told us they sometimes feel very different and out of place in civilian settings. That culture we were speaking about, many miss the unspoken understanding they once had with other forces children, that feeling that everyone just simply got it and understood. And for example, experiences like being separated from their parent and constant moving and mobility can feel difficult to explain to peers who have never lived that life before. And underneath all of this sits an important question around identity. You know, who am I now? Some young people describe feeling proud of being a military child, but uncertain about what that means after transition. And others speak about feeling caught between two worlds, no longer fully connected to military life, but not feeling completely civilian either. So that sense of in between can stay with young people for a long time if it's not recognised and supported. So that sense of being in between, as I've said, can stay with young people. And when we speak to children and young people about their experiences of transitioning to civilian life, a common pattern often emerges. So many describe transition as happening in 3 stages: before, during, and after. And each stage brings different challenges, but also important opportunities for support. So in the before stage, this stage is often shaped by uncertainty and sometimes anxiety. Young people may wonder, will we have to move house? What school will I go to? Will I lose my friends? And for some, the anticipation can hang over family life for months. And again, linking back to what I previously said, this can be very sudden for children and young people, or it can be a planned transition. So it's different for each child. So children's voices really matter here, and young people consistently tell us they want honest conversations and to feel included in decisions that affect their lives. And being listened to, informed and involved can help reduce fear and give children a greater sense of agency. So the during phase is often the period of greatest upheaval. So families may be managing housing changes, financial pressures, paperwork, and the emotional aspects of leaving military life. It's a military life and service is a unique phenomenon, and in some way, serving people can sometimes be institutionalized into service, and it's very difficult trying to come out of that culture and integrate into civilian life. So families can be very stressed during this time. After the final stage is the move, or happens when the move or transition is complete, and the adjustment just doesn't simply end. So children may now be trying to settle into new schools, build friendships, and adapt to communities that may not necessarily fully understand what's going on. So inclusion and understanding at this stage becomes vital. With the right support, children can rebuild confidence, develop new connections, and thrive. But when their experiences go unrecognised, the longer term impact on well-being, identity, and education can be significant. And I suppose one of the most striking things is how little research has focused specifically on children and young people through this process. The Living in Our Shoes report highlighted, that while much attention has been given to understanding transition for serving personnel, far less is known about the experiences of partners and children. And more recently, the Scottish Veterans Commissioner's report, Community and Relationships, Anything But Uniform, reinforced the importance of including children's voices in policy development and improving understanding of armed forces and veteran families across education, health, and social care. And that's why I suppose having this webinar today and launching resources like Maxie's Big Move are so important. So we need to move towards a broader understanding of transition, and one that recognises not only the practical challenges families face, but also the emotional, social, and identity-based impact on children and young people. Before we move on to talking about Maxie's Big Move, I'd just like to share a few reflections from young people themselves. And these quotes remind us that transition is not just a practical process. It's something children and young people feel deeply in their everyday lives. And as you read through them, just have a think about what stands out to you, what emotions do you hear behind the words, and what might these young people need from the adults and professionals around them. So that broader understanding of transition and the experiences that the young people shared with our participation team is exactly what shaped the work we're sharing with you today. Before we spotlight Maxie's Big Move, it's important to recognise the incredible contribution that children and young people themselves have made in helping us better understand what this looks like for armed forces families. And one of the first major projects developed by Forces Children Scotland was the Tornado of Change campaign. During participation sessions, young people described transition from military to civilian life as feeling like a tornado, with many changes happening all at once, moving home, changing schools, and leaving friends behind. And that powerful description became the foundation for a series of co-produced short films exploring the emotional impact transition can have on children and families. And if you'd like to learn more about the project, and indeed if you want to watch some of the films, please just scan the QR code on the screen there, and that will take you to the webpage. But I will share all of these at the end of the webinar as well. And what the Tornado of Change campaign highlighted very clearly was the importance of creating support that helps children feel understood and emotionally supported throughout this transition. And this work went on to influence the development of the Ruby Boots project, which Heather will talk about in lots of detail at the end of the webinar. And alongside this, wider Forces in Mind Trust-funded work focused on transition, belonging, and emotional well-being for armed forces families. And as these conversations developed, it also became increasingly clear that there was a particular gap in younger children within the early years. And older children and young people are often able to describe and reflect on their experiences directly, but younger children communicate differently. Their feelings are more likely to emerge through storytelling, narratives, imagination, play, and conversations. And that is where Maxie's Big Move began, from the Ruby Boots project. And the story was developed to help younger children explore feelings around transition, belonging, and friendship in a way that feels safe, accessible, and age appropriate. And through the story and discussion and the play activities associated with the book, it creates opportunities for children to recognise and express emotions that can sometimes be difficult to put into words. Primary school pupils at Lookers near St Andrews reflected on their own memories and experiences of transition when they were younger, and it was their ideas, experiences and voices that helped shape the story and the themes and the illustrations within Maxie's Big Move. And with that, I'm delighted to hand over to Nina, who will talk more about the participation work behind the project and the key themes children shared with us, and how Maxie's story came to life. So I'll hand you over to Nina just now.
Thanks, Jude. Oh, lots of memories for me in terms of the projects that we've done. So I suppose for me, it kind of started when I first started doing participation sessions in school way back 7 years ago, when young people started talking to me about that transition. Now, I'm always really open and honest that a forces background is not my background. So I suppose when I first started the work, whilst I was aware that there were children from veterans in Scotland, I really didn't understand that experience. And it wasn't until we were doing sessions that young people were telling me about this massive change that they went through when their parent left the forces. And that carried with me with everything else that young people were telling me, which then later developed to our Tornado of Change campaign, because young people told me people don't understand what this experience is like for me, and they don't know how to support me, and I don't get the opportunity to talk about it. So we did the Tornado of Change campaign. Ruby Boots happened. They designed the service, and Heather is going to talk more about the Ruby Boots work that we do at Forces Children's Scotland and the wonderful support that Heather provides for young people. But in amongst that was the stories that young people told us whilst we were developing the campaign. So from those stories about their own lived experience, we developed like a composite story, really, in terms of all the different elements of the changes that young people faced, which are very varied depending on, have they lived on a patch, have they moved lots? So, everybody's story is very, very different. And when we started Ruby Boots at the beginning, and we were looking to work with young people whose parents were about to leave the forces or had just left the forces, we hit that wall which said, actually, nobody's identifying these children and young people. So referrals at the start were difficult because the people in various schools that weren't on a patch at all just weren't aware that that's the experience that young person had gone through. And we quickly became aware that we needed a story that we could connect with very young children about that experience, so that we could actually reflect their experience back to them in an assembly. So I suppose the very first kind of iteration of Max's Big Move was done at an assembly in primary schools in Fife. And we then, and hats off to Jude, who took that story and all the stories and the experiences that young people had been telling us about to create a kind of outline of a story. We then found an amazing illustrator, Catherine, who lives in Fife, who totally got on board. And unfortunately, she works at a different role on a Tuesday and can't be with us here today, but her images are So you'll get to see them shortly. But Catherine really got on board with us in terms of how we wanted to create the illustrations. It's so important for all the work that we do at Forces Children's Scotland that young people are involved in every step of the way. And Catherine is not from a Forces background, and she had very little knowledge. So she really got into their world, and we played lots of games in the development stages of the storybook to make sure that Catherine really understood about Forces life. So when we were sharing that understanding of what it's like to live on a patch and what the transition is like, we played some games and we created some activities that young people made a bagatelle. So they had a ball and they had some junk, and they created their transition into becoming a civilian family, and all the ups and downs and the roundabouts, and we had loads of fun with that. And it gave Catherine a really good insight into all the different experiences that the children had. And we looked around the patch. So we did the sessions at Lookers Community Centre, and we looked around the patch to see what it looks like, and Catherine got a real feel for that. And we looked at different images of different illustrated books, and we said, oh, here's a picture of this housing, this house in this picture book. Does this look like a patch you've lived on? Absolutely not. It needs to look like this. And Catherine took all that knowledge away and did her designs. We came back to the group to double check, is this right? Does this look right? And also Catherine, I think, really understood about the patch, the houses on the patch, and the difference in terms of moving to your own house, a house you bought or rented privately, where you can put wallpaper on the wall and you're not ripping it off in a couple of years' time because you're moving on. So you don't have to put your house back. You can put as many holes in that wall as you would like. So you'll see in some of the when we look at the story that there's lovely stripy wallpaper when Max has moved house. So I think really to capture like those big, those subtle changes that happen for young people when they move off the patch. So that's in terms of like how we kind of pulled together the knowledge that young people had that actually we needed to share with the illustrator to make sure that when we pick up this book with a child from a Forces family, they can identify with that's a place that they recognise in the storybook. And that was really, really important for us. In terms of those themes, Jude's talked about kind of like those, the kind of before, during, and after, and that definitely came out in all those sessions. And as we go through Max's big move, we can see his journey through that move to kind of like the bit of anxiety that Max has in terms of this big change that they weren't expecting in his family to happen, to settling into his new place and finding his place in his new school as he's moved off the patch. And in terms of like the characters, so the young people decided on the names for the characters. There had to be a dog in the storybook because the young people that we were working with in that group told us about how important their pets were for them. So Max had to have a pet in there, and they decided on all the names for the characters and what they looked like and the clothing as well. So young people really were totally immersed in the development of the book. We sent them draft pictures, which they said, oh, I want a little tweak here, and can the dog look a little bit more like this along the way. So I suppose in terms of how long the project we thought would take, actually expanded massively. And hats off to Catherine, who's so flexible with us about the development. She said she's not been involved in a project that's co-produced this with young people, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that she actually was, she was able to be flexible with us, because I think hopefully you'll agree with us when we share the animated story that it's really, really paid off, and it's something certainly at Forces Children's Scotland we are super proud of. Happy to take any questions in the chat at all about this work, but yeah, that's all from me. I'm going to pass on now.
Thank you, Nina. That was lovely to hear. And yeah, as you say, it'll be lovely to see the illustrations on the screen. So that brings me to a very special moment. I think we will watch the clip now. And as you watch the clip, just, I suppose, think about some of the experiences we have been discussing. And I just really hope the story offers your viewpoint of what it can be like for younger children who do experience this transition. So I'm just going to share my screen just now. Just give me a second. Oh, that's that one there. Oh no, I had it up. There we go. Sorry, I'll need to just share my sound if you give me a second. Sorry, I don't know if my sound's not letting me share the sound. Give me 2 seconds. We not hear that, no.
Can't hear it or see it, Jude.
Yeah. It usually comes up asking, yeah, would that be okay, Meg? Apologies, my computer has been playing up today. And for some reason it won't let me share it.
Can we see that?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Judith. Today we are going to be reading Maxie's Big Move, which is written with children and young people from Armed Forces families and illustrated by Catherine Lindell. It's lovely to be here with you today. Today we are going to be reading a story about a little boy called Max who lives on an army patch. I have lived on an army patch with my 2 young children, and we have lots of fun and happy memories of that time. In today's story, we find out about Maxie's patch and what happens when suddenly he has to move away from his army house and move to somewhere new. Maxie's Big Move. Max is from an armed forces family. It's all he has ever known. His mum is a soldier. Every 2 years, they move to somewhere new. Maxie's mum sometimes goes away with the army. She doesn't come home at night and will often be gone for several months at a time. At those times, Max longs for his mum's cuddles and misses sharing popcorn with her on the couch. Max knows his mum has a very important job to do. He and Dad are very proud of her for being so brave, and they know how hard she works to keep everyone safe. But Max is sad when she leaves. He wishes Mum could stay with them a little bit longer. One nice thing about Max's mum being away is that he gets to spend a lot more time with his dad, Dad is great at making him feel safe and sound. They do lots of fun activities together. Max can talk to Dad about anything that might be worrying him. But most of all, they talk about Mum and all the fun things they will do with her when she gets home. All the families where Max lives have mums or dads serving in the armed forces. Their neighbourhood is called a patch. Lots of Max's friends live on the patch. It feels safe and secure here. Every week, they meet their friends on the patch for dinner or for a play at the park. The best thing about being on the patch is that Max always has a friend next door. He can walk outside and find somebody to play with or talk to. Everyone is welcoming to new families, and everyone understands that you might have to move to a new patch when your parent has to serve in a new place. Dad has support on the patch too. He isn't alone. He often joins other families for a coffee and a catch-up. Everyone understands that being separated is tough. Life on the patch feels good. One day, whilst Mum is away on a training exercise, Max has some bad news. Mum has hurt her leg. She has to go to a medical centre to be looked after properly. The army doctors give her lots of support, and in time, she makes a full recovery. Mum is happy that she has recovered. But she is also very sad because the doctors have said she can no longer be a soldier. This is to keep her safe and to protect her from hurting her leg again. Mum has something to tell Max. As she is no longer a soldier, they will have to move away and leave the patch. The time has come to find a different house and somewhere new to live. Everyone is upset about leaving their friends. But this is a new adventure with new places to explore. What will Max's house be like? But after they move, Max is worried. His old friends aren't living next door. The children living near him just don't get it. They all have different accents, and none of them have lived on a patch before. They don't even know what a patch is. Soon, he will have to start his new school. Max feels scared and unsure. He always had friends who lived next to him to make things a bit easier. But now there will be new faces, different classrooms, and new routines. At school, he wanders the playground alone. Everyone seems to have a friend, but then he hears footsteps behind him. A boy, Ben, is there. Ben explains that the teacher told him that Max had come from an armed forces family. And Ben has too. Ben tells Max about the patch he lived on and all the things he enjoyed about his dad serving in the Navy. Ben's dad didn't go away often, but he was very busy and had lots of special events to attend. He had to wear a fancy uniform. Ben shows Max around his school while they talk. It's great to find someone who understands how it feels to have a parent who has served in the forces. And the two boys finally know lots of friends in common. Ben talks about how he felt when his dad left the Navy and all the things that helped him to feel better about his new life. This helps Max to share the feelings that he is having. He starts to think that perhaps there might be good things here after all. Max starts to feel more confident and he finds new friends. They might all have different backgrounds and come from different places, but they all play the same games, go to the same school, and enjoy talking together. There is a lot to enjoy about living here, but their old life on the patch will always feel special to Max and his family. Thank you for joining me to hear the story of Maxie's big move. If Maxie's journey has meant something to you, we have other activities to help you think and talk about it. If you want to learn more, visit the Forces Children's Scotland website.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that there, Meg. I'm just going to bring back up my slides. I always cringe when I watch that because I sound so Scottish. But I really hope you did enjoy watching that, and I hope that what we were discussing previously, that it's shown through in the story, and I really hope you enjoyed watching the beautiful illustrations by Catherine. You can really just see how much she really listened to the children, and the way she captured the patch and the uniform. So it's just lovely to see those illustrations, and we're really thankful to Catherine for that. So alongside the book and film, we've also developed a range of supporting resources designed to help early years practitioners, so preschool children and children within early level going into first level within Curriculum for Excellence. So children who are in the early years of primary and in nursery as well. And we know that for younger children, big emotions are often expressed through play, storytelling, creativity, and everyday interactions. So these resources have been created to support gentle conversations around change, belonging and friendship, whilst also providing just practical tools that professionals can use within early years settings and primary settings. Early years practitioners and primary educators are the experts, but we've just tried to create some resources that will help, hopefully, with the delivery of the book. I've just popped here on the screen, which will be live on our website later, but this is really the first resource I would recommend that you look at, and will be accessible on the Maxie's Big Move project page. This is just a little guidance document which just talks about some of the experiences that younger children may experience, and it provides some top tips for professionals. So it's just quite a nice little document to give you an overview of some of the experiences that younger children may experience and what you can do as a professional to help support that. And we've also, so that I've just popped that on the screen there, but I'm now going to actually just take you to the website so that you can see where it's located. I will share all of this with you at the end of the webinar. So if you just give me a second. So all the resources are on our, why is that? Sorry, give me a second. Are on our project page here, which is the Maxie's Big Move project page. It tells you a little bit about the project, and it will also have the links to the video, and there's a PDF as well. So you can watch, if you want to share the film clip, you can do that, but there's also the full PDF here as well. We do have physical copies as well, but these are they're Nina, I suppose, has got them. We don't have a limited supply, but we do have the PDF on the website that you can access. So as I said, we do have the top tips, but we do have a specific guided reading sheet, which you can use with a group of learners. It's a very simple guided reading sheet, which gives you sections for before reading, so developing prediction skills, and then during reading, so a little bit of comprehension, some guided questions, and after reading, so building on that understanding and looking at some inference-based questions and how the children you're working with can connect their own thoughts to the story as well. There's some little follow-up activities here that you could adopt with some children. You don't have to. It's just to really give you some ideas around how you could use the book, and I'll show you some guiding and supporting resources to support these ideas. You may have seen throughout the story Hamish, spelled H-A-M-E-I-S-H. This is Maxie's Teddy. He's called Hamish because he's sometimes Hame, but he sometimes moves about, so he's Hame-ish. He's kind of Hame, but he's not. But Maxie's Teddy is very important to him, so we've used Hamish in some of the learning resources there. And this guided reading sheet is linked to Curriculum for Excellence, which is the curriculum within Scotland, but this can easily be adapted to other curriculums as well. So we have also developed some other resources. So we've created a little word bank here just for recognition of characters and text. There's also some space there's also some emotions there in the word bank as well that you can explore. There's space also to pop your own words in or own phrases that maybe the children might identify as you're reading the story as well. We've got a matching game, which obviously helps encourage turn taking and cooperative play. So that's just a very simple matching game that we've got. We've got jigsaw puzzles as well, which again can help with problem solving and just allow children the time to talk about their own experiences as well if they're working in groups. We've also got a little counting activity that children can do. You can see Hamish here, and these are just all optional activities that you can use. We've got lollipop stick puppets as well. And recently as well, we have just developed, which I've got here, our little colouring sheets, which are quite nice to do just to talk about family and the main characters within the story. And there's little Hamish there. He can be printed off and coloured in for children to discuss the story as well. So there's lots of different resources there to explore along with guidance about understanding what it means to transition to civilian life for young children. So I will share all of that with you, but hopefully that project page there is something that you can explore at your leisure, and hopefully it will be beneficial to early years practitioners and primary school practitioners. And if you have any ideas or if you've got any suggestions for resources that you would find beneficial as professionals, please let us know, because we want to help support you in any way that we can to support the delivery of Maxie's Big Move. So that would be wonderful if you could do that. So as we come to the end of today's webinar, we are finishing with a look at Ruby Boots, and it's just so nice that we've got Heather with us today to talk about Ruby Boots. And Maxie's Big Move has been formed because Ruby Boots' success, so it was created from the Ruby Boots project. And the Maxie's Big Move is only one part of the amazing wider support that Heather offers through the Ruby Boots project. And so to close today's session, I'm just so delighted to spotlight this fantastic project, which is run so fantastically by Heather. And it's important to really highlight that, and the support that is continuing to be there for young people beyond Maxie's Big Move. So it's my absolute pleasure to hand you over to Heather, who's going to talk a wee bit about the project and let you know more about it.
Thanks, Jude. What an introduction, eh? I hope now, I do have a window open with some barking dogs outside. I do hope you can't hear. Okay, good. Wonderful. I was slightly apprehensive. I think the dogs are enjoying the sun outside in my neighbour's gardens, but anyway, the joys. Yes, so Ruby Boots, I think it's great because Nina and Jude have already touched briefly on some aspects of Ruby Boots. So to touch on what they've said, Ruby Boots has been created by young people themselves, and I just just kind of wave a magic wand and make it work. But it is all their ideas, and it is a great idea from them, if I may say so. As well. So they said that they, during the transition to civilian life, that they felt isolated, lonely, confused, and that changes were often quite abrupt. And from that, after the Tornado Change campaign, which Jude already mentioned, they said that what they needed is someone about their age who's already gone through the transition, who could be their buddy and provide that sense of belonging, community, words of wisdom, and just a place for them to process their transition and all the weird and wonderful things that come with that, and just have that place for them, instead of being expected to just go along with it, as Dorothy did in The Wizard of Oz. If you have seen The Wizard of Oz, if not, that is your homework, maybe when the weather's not as nice. And there's a tornado scene where she's kind of whizzed up and plopped down and her house is going with her, and it's all a bit chaotic, and that's how young people said they felt. Hence the name Ruby Boots, because her slippers, her magical slippers, are ruby and boots, because all of the services were boots. But as Jude is showing you here, our model is a peer support model mainly. So we have buddies who are the veterans' children. So if a young person between the ages of 5 and 18 has their parent has left within the last kind of 5 years or so, it depends on the individual, but that's like my rough kind of guideline, that they could train as a buddy and provide that support for the slightly older ones as well. It's quite nice as well. It can help towards their Duke of Edinburgh and things like that as well as just giving back and having kind of great skills for life. And then the peers are young people whose parents are about to leave, or maybe have just left as well, and it's all very fresh. And then we have the wonderful, wonderful adult volunteer facilitators as well, who I could not do Ruby Boots without. They're absolutely awesome, and they help to facilitate conversations and also help to just keep everyone safe and well as well, during sometimes quite tricky conversations too. So within the groups, we meet currently across Edinburgh and Fife. Hopefully one day I will wave my magic wand extra harder and we could go further, but currently Edinburgh and Fife. But watch this space. I'm on a mission. But yes, so within Edinburgh, Fife, in the schools mainly, but also within the community, we meet and we work on all things wellbeing, transition, whether it's sessions targeted directly on that transition to civilian life, or all of the themes within it, such as friendship and family changes and routines and managing change in general, in more of a kind of whole journey impact. So with that as well, we do have some resources and things too. Jude, I don't know, can I share the infographic?
Yes,
is that okay?
of course you can. Yep, you should be able just to do it.
This is one of our newest ones, and it is, I'm going to try and multitask and tell you about it whilst I get it up. So it has been created by young people, and it has been illustrated by a wonderful young person. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I spoke with lots and lots of different young people who told me all about their transitions to civilian life. And this is kind of a compilation of all their stories into 4 different ones, because originally I was going to do just one, and then they actually told me you can't do just one because they're all so different. So that is why there's 4 different pathways. And then our wonderful young person in a high school in Edinburgh has illustrated these awesome characters, and they all have backstories. And if you keep an eye out on our kind of news channels, we are going to be telling you more about these characters soon, which is going to be really wonderful, and telling you more about the illustrator as well. But we have all of these stories and characters, and it's a really nice illustration of all the different stories and how they can look so different, but kind of all going into that same place of civilian life, where some young people feel okay, some are still learning, but that they don't need to do it alone, with Ruby Boots and the community that brings. We do also have Jude was wonderful and has created 2 lessons as well that can be done in kind of classrooms with children and young people as well. It's Curriculum for Excellence. This is lesson 2, which links to understanding that transition, and there's lots of fun things to do with there with that transition. And the other thing I'll show you as well is the top tips, similarly to Max's big move, but this is all around Ruby Boots as well. So top tips for professionals there. I will stop sharing quickly. And if this is something that anyone would like to get involved with, I'm always happy to hear from people and chat through referrals and things. And I like to make it super easy, so you can literally just drop me an email and we can have a chat if that is relevant for anyone. And I'm just thinking if I've missed anything. And as well, I will mention as well, just we've kind of finished our first year now, which has been really, really wonderful. And I will say the from parents and teachers and young people themselves has been absolutely wonderful, and it's been a really, really great time, and really looking forward to the year ahead of more fun and hopefully even better than the last year as well, and even greater things happening. Jude, if you would like to share that picture, please. I will say as well, it's really exciting.
I'd love to share it. I'd love to do it. It nearly makes me well up when I saw it. So lovely.
So since we're sharing Max's big move, I am a forces child myself in adult form, and I went through the transition myself. There is actually a blog post on our website as well of the specific experiences my family and I had during the transition. So this is me. I think we're in an army house somewhere. In my early years with an army dad, and it's really nice having that first-hand experience, although it's not required to understand, as some of our colleagues are equally as awesome without it, but it is nice to have that first-hand experience and kind of give back in a way, and be what I wish I had. I know that when I went through the transition myself, slightly altered form there, that's me in my teenage years on remembrance. Looking very proud at my dad, I have to say. But yes, I really do wish I had something during that transition to civilian life, and so I guess that's me then just helping along the way for the next generation or so. So yes, that is Ruby Boots. Thank you so much, Jude.
Oh, thank you, Heather. It's just so wonderful to hear about and just see actually all the wonderful work that's been going on with Ruby Books. It's just lovely to see the illustrations there from and the different stories, which again just highlights how different it can be for each family. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was wonderful. I will provide information about the Ruby Boots page, and I'll also pass on Heather's email. Well, it's all on the Ruby Boots page anyway, so I can signpost that to you. So yeah, I just would like to say just a massive thank you for everyone attending today. I really hope that has been beneficial and has been useful, just touching upon what it does mean for young people, but I suppose acknowledging that, you know, it's very, very different depending on the family and depending on the situation. But hopefully through the storybook, it provides a bit of a catalyst for younger children to really talk about their own narrative and their own experience. I would very appreciate if you could just fill in a very quick 2-minute evaluation, not even 2 minutes. And in this evaluation, there is space for maybe suggestions of any other resources that you might find beneficial, or any suggestions. So I'd really appreciate it. And if you did have time to do that, that would be great. And just to end, if anyone does have any questions, please let us know, and you can wave a hand, or you can pop some in the chat. I think we do have a question about purchasing the book. So the books they're not for sale, they're free. But I think, Nina, I'll maybe hand that one to you about the purchasing of books.
Yeah, so we were funded to produce this book, so it includes free copies for we have 200 copies in total. So if you would like to get a copy, we have sent them to kind of key early years settings in Scotland, but if you would like a book for your setting, then please get in touch. You can drop your address in the chat, and once they're gone, but so get in there quickly, and I'm more than happy to send you out a copy of the book.
If you do want a copy, I'll just pop my email in. You can just email me directly. And then I'll pass it on. That'd be easier maybe. I'll just pop that in. But yeah, once they're gone, eh?
Well, until we get funding for another run if we need it, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just pop that in there if you do want a copy. Any other questions from anybody? Oh, there's that's great, fantastic, Louise. That'd be wonderful. If you're being a book club leader, that would be great. And I know we've sent some out for Reading Force. I think Reading Force are actually having a little competition with some of the books, so keep your eyes peeled. You could spread that around. I think they've got a little competition with 3 of the Maxie's Big Move books, so that will be on their social media channels soon. And Reading Force, again, another fantastic organisation that've got access to lots of books for younger children as well. So yeah, thank you. So hopefully, and what I'll maybe do actually is I'll just pop the link in the project page link, so that you can access the page if you want to explore some of the resources. The TOPS tips and guidance will be uploaded tomorrow. They're just going through the final stages of tweaking, and then they are going up live on the web page tomorrow. So that's great. Thanks. I'll send that out. So that please explore that at your leisure, and I'll also put the Ruby Books page up as well. But there's lots to explore and read about, so please please do that. We also actually hosted a webinar last year as well around transition to civilian life, and the Scottish Veterans Commissioner, Susie Hamilton, was on that webinar as well. So if you do want to learn more about the transition, please watch that webinar as well. But thank you so much. And we have finished a little bit early. I did add 15 minutes just in case. But that's hopefully giving you 15 extra minutes of sunshine if you're going outside. Oh, thank you, Heather. Just about to pop that in. It's fab. So yeah, and what I'll also do is I'm just going to pop the link to the evaluation in the chat as well. But I'll send all of this out to everyone. Thank you so much.